Greetings everyone. Today I would like to continue my random talk about the random stuff. Basically I will talk about this anything that comes to my consciousness. Let me see. I usually make a video during the evening because I have this desire to do something in the evening. So I'm not this early bird. I mean, early in the morning I could this make video, but I usually make in the evening. Today I'm making video during this daytime because today is a special day. Today is my mother's birthday, so I'm being a little bit this excited. And today is a Tuesday. But our family decided to have a holiday. This is one of the great personal freedoms that we enjoy because of this democracy, or this personal freedom type of this system. And previously I talked about this communism, and there was no such this greater personal freedom. This today we are not working because today is our mother's birthday, like your this closes your shop. Of course, previously I claimed that joining the communism was a great plus for Mongolia because we this learned a lot of stuff, and it was of course better than a feudal system wherein this nobles are doing great and the commoners and those who have no property, so-called barlak or tsarts, are doing not well, type of system. And we learned that worker must work for 5 days and have a rest for 2 days, and worker must work 8 hours, not whole day, etc., etc. So there was some kind of this worker freedom, or some worker is having somewhat personal this freedom. So nowadays we have more in personal freedom, and I usually like this, and I usually like to promote the personal freedoms. But we also must remember certain stuff. You are part of some this greater community, and you also have some duties, and you are you are not born empty. I mean, some people in their this philosophy try to say that human being born this naked, and human being this without nothing, and human being this dies. When the person dies, she does not need anything, type of this philosophy or something like that. But I can say that human being is born with the things that with this some this, how to say, with some things. For example, it's your language. You are born with some certain language. You basically given this language by your parents, by your ancestors, and you are also given somewhat this identity, and you are given some kind of this mental this or frame, or you have this certain strange, how to say, ethnic this behaviors. For example, Japanese are this constantly this they're trying to be like this, smiling, being humble, but this type of mentality does not exist among the Mongolians. If I'm going to make a video about this topic, I would say something like this. These Koreans open their this restaurants, and there's Mongolian girls are like standing on the door, and they are this bowing this towards any customer who crosses the this gate. I would this criticize this stuff and would say that what kind of this punishment is this? This you're trying to make money by losing your human this dignity. According to this Mongolian, your this back must be standing tall, and there must not be like bending. Bending like this means like you have committed some crime. You are like being I'm sorry, this like this, and this way of life is like this you have done something bad in your previous life, so that you have to be endure this this I'm sorry, I'm this like this bombing. So personally, in my opinion, this type of this service, this type of this how to say bowing to guests is not acceptable for a Mongolian. So I like to preach what is this Mongolness. Yeah. So what else? Let me talk about this. Does God exist? Something like that. That obviously I made a lot of videos about gods and spirits and shamanism, etc., etc. And obvious answer is of course yes. And it's kind of this. It's a matter of faith, obviously. And when you try to give the this answer in somewhat this philosophical or deep thinking way, of course God exists, and in some poetic this sense, God exists in your heart, God exists in your consciousness, and you do your judgment according what you feel, what you think is right. It means God, like in this. Imagine that this is a book. God does not exist in a book, but a book can influence your heart and consciousness greatly. But still, this God does not exist in a book, because God, this how to say, book is like man-made. So I'm being radical. This, how to say, this gods in book is not this how to say, not good ones. So everyone has this how to say somewhat this kindness. So this kindness is obviously the God that exists in your heart. So when you pity someone, when you like give help to others, it's like this. You are doing something godly, because we usually think that God helps, God saves. So when you are helping to someone, when you are saving someone, you are doing something godly. So the another type of question is that is there any some this invisible spirit or something unnatural that guides a human being, or the small ethnic group? According to this Mongol beliefs and or according to Mongol language, when you ask such a question, do these people have a religion? It's going to be, do these people have shejing? It's written as shejing, but in a spoken language it's shejing. It basically means, do these people have a shaman? Some dude speaks about this spirituality, or this gods, this god and this spirit is demanding this thing, this stuff. So obviously all ethnic groups, all these so-called primitive societies will always have someone who talks about the spirits and gods. So the idea of God is something this of human. It's something human, and that for a cat and a dog, human being is like God. For a human being thinks that maybe there is this very advanced, this higher being in this universe that may look after them. Personally, I believe that these gods are like not omnipresent, or this they see everything like this. They cannot see you what you are doing in a bed or what you are doing in a toilet. So this. Sometimes I think that God is so mighty. God sees everything. Is just this one of the exaggeration of human mind. This when you creating like comic hero. Sometimes this you exaggerate their power too much. So in time these people exaggerate this God's power too much, and this leads to some kind of this, how to say, sorry, that's so mental stuff. So yes, I would say that every ethnic group keeps some certain type of this mentality, and this is what their the godly nature is. And personally, I like to claim that this the God we keep in our hearts and in our consciousness is different from the this Buddha, from the this Jesus, and this his father, this angry Jewish God, and this also angry Muslim God. We usually think that this our creator is our father, like our mother and our father. This please help us, something like that. But foreigners seems to think that there in God is like Lord, like slave owner, and you have to do this. He is the king of kings. You have to do his or her biddings, something like that. So this. So I like to promote what is Mongolness, and luckily that we have this Buddhism, and we have this own local stuff, so that there has always been a little conflict between the opinions, and this it almost reached this some kind of a balance where this commoners go to a lama and asks for this guidance, and then if this person is not sure, goes to a shaman and asks for what to do. So it's also this somewhat personal freedom. And the question is in this, when do we need God? People usually need God, or a small ethnic group usually need God when something is wrong, when they are suffering. For example, in shamanism, when someone is suffering and there is a strange pain, no doctors and nothing can help you, and you feel that you are slowly dying, etc., etc. This is usually called, there's some kind of shaman's disease, and this person goes to mountains or goes to a holy, these healing places, and tries to, this, how to say, find a god or find a spirit. That's how they become a shaman. And like this, this a group or ethnic group can be under some kind of suffering, can be some kind of oppression, and this type of this this situation or condition creates some dude who claims to be a savior. this, like for example Buddhism. The goal of Buddhism is to end all forms of suffering. That's kind of this strange. How to say this. This some dude comes and he claims he's going to end all the suffering, but it didn't happen. And what he this proposed, what he created in the theory sounds great, but a little bit disastrous in the reality. And when you are having a religion or spirituality, make sure it's little bit disastrous in a theory, but quite working in a reality. So there can be like teachings like this. Do not lie is like basically very good in a theory, but it's not this. It's not a part of your reality. For example, like this fairy tales and this folklores are all about this lie. This there's this three pigs are building their homes, and there's a big bad wolf and blowing their homes. It's all lie, but this is a folklore, and this is what these people this lie to entertain themselves. So there must not be like this strict this teachings that you must not lie, something like that. So I usually see that there is no freedom in the foreign religions. They have these strict commandments, and they want to have some this frame. There is no this, how to say, the understanding of the what is it, true reality, something like that. Well, it's a strange thing that this saviors will come when there is a time of suffering. So when you are enjoying these happy and these peaceful times, try not to talk much about the God or gods. For example, I'm hearing that some Kazakhs like invite these people from the outside, this like Egypt, maybe Middle East, and this dude like with the beards, with the white hat, is sitting there and preaching them how to be a this true and proper this Muslim. And how to say, if you want a trouble, if you want this coming of Buddha in the future, you talk about the God and gods, and if you want this less suffering, you have to talk about the God and the spirits less. I wonder if you understand what I mean. There was these bad times for this nation, and Genghis Khan came and brought these great and good times, and of course there also was this bad times after that. So that this, for example, this currency, we have this handsome man who is also claimed to be a savior, and I will put a link description below showing the photos of these nobles and nobilities and common people in 1920s. And I would like to ask you to find the most handsome man there is. And personally, I find this Sukhpatar is the most handsome this man there is. And I usually think that if there is going to be the savior in the future, this man is going to be very handsome, like Genghis Khan, like Sukhpatar, and the other, this handsome saviors. Well, random talk. Well, that's pretty much for today, and I don't even know what to call this video. Maybe I'll call it as this 1000, because I have reached this this 1000 subscriber, maybe 1007 or 1008. Well, that's pretty much for today, and thanks for watching.